All right, everybody. So here's what's happening. I'm playing Super Mario 1. The reason I'm going to play, and I'm going to just dive right in because does anyone really need my commentary on the first, 15 levels of this game? So here's the deal. I decided, so I just finished XCOM. Well, I decided I was done with XCOM. XCOM finished me. And, but lately I've been thinking about, so I turned 39 this week. And so, next year I'll be 40, which is I feel like at that point I'll be too old to play video games on the internet. So I had a good 18 months there where I was doing it and, not too old. But, the other thing is, I think most YouTuber people who do this sort of thing are probably around my age. It'll be weird when, I go to the doctor, and I'm starting to get to the age where it's possible to go to the doctor's office, and everyone who works there is 10 years younger than I am. Noticeably younger, right? And that's a weird moment in life where you're I used to go to the doctor's office and was easily the youngest person in there. And then you're now I'm kind of the average age. And then you're well, everyone who works here is younger than me. That's for damn sure. And YouTube is going to be like that eventually, right? Where I'm everyone on YouTube is a little younger than me. I can sort of salve myself now and be let's look up, how old is Rich Evans? Okay, he's a couple years older than me. That's fine. So I'm fine. What's too old to goof around on the internet? Anyway, I'm going to turn 40 next year. And I've never beaten Mario's 1, 2, or 3. And so I was it'd be kind of fun this year as a little video gaming project to play through Mario's 1, 2, 3, 4, and, let's just see how far we go. So, that's the plan. Now, what are the rules? Because you gotta have some rules. Okay, my plan is to play through them, as sort of genuinely as possible, replicating the original experience as much as possible. So, for example, I'm not going to save scum. For those of you who don't know, save scum would be you use a save state, which this does have. I'm playing this on the NES Classic. And you can save state. So what that means is I could, right now, I could save this game. So what you could do in theory, what I could have done, my first emulator I ever got was called Nesticle. And part of what was great about it is you could play these games on your computer, right? And it was amazing because you were Jesus, these games files are tiny. How are these so small? And, at first, because you're 17, you're original Nintendo was pathetic. These are so tiny, these files. And then as you get older, you're more oh my God, this was an engineering marvel that they managed to do this in so little space. How is that possible? So when I had Nesticle, one of the innovations of it, though, was save states, which did make it possible to, at least see more of a video game. Because what you could do is, let's say you could never beat Castlevania. And you were I can get to death, and I can get to the hallway before death, where there's a bunch of axe armors. But, by the time I get to death, I was always so worn down that I really had no chance. What you could do is, defeat one axe armor, save. Then defeat the next axe armor, save. And so on and so on. I don't know who I'm explaining this to. I don't know who the audience for this is, but whatever. Not knowing my audience is kind of my thing. Not defining an audience is kind of my thing. So, that was something you could do, and that was a new thing. For this birthday challenge, I'm not going to save scum. So I'm not going to, halfway through the castle in World 8, if I ever make it that far, save, right? And then like get another room through and then save again. And if I get killed, start over, so on and so forth. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm also not going to use warp zones in this game, and I think I'll try and avoid using warp whistles in Mario 3. I'm not going to try and play every level in Mario 3. Like, I don't really care about that. I'm just going to try and play my way through the game, take a path through the game. Another thing I want to do is, like, if I use a resource, like, let's say I want to look up, like, what's the easiest route through Mario 3? Because I'm struggling or something. I want to try and use resources that would have been available at the time. So maybe not at the exact time of Mario's release, but like Nintendo Power is fair game. Or like a print version of a, guide to the game would be fair game. I don't know why I'm doing it that way. I just have decided to do it that way. It's like, it's got to be some of a challenge, right? Now, here's one of the mine, and I'm not going to try and 100% like Mario 4, Mario World if I get that far, or like Yoshi's Island, I may or may not. But I'm not going to require myself to 100% everything. Because, part of the idea here is to get through more games. And then I could always go back and 100% them, right? Which I probably won't do until I'm 80. And then I'll be like, I can't see. I have no reaction time. My skin has become so fragile and frail that, rapid button pushing has ripped the skin off of my thumbs. However, I'm not going to necessarily plan to 100% unless, there's for some reason I want to. And like maybe if I do get to Mario 64, I'll try and get all the stars, which I did at one time, like when I was in, like right before my senior year of high school. That was like the one summer I didn't have a job when I was around that age. And so my days where I would go to cross-country training / practice in the morning and then do nothing all day. Well, I'd usually go to a gymnasium. And then I would sometimes go twice, so I'd go again in the evening. And I was just doing a lot of running and then resting between running. And so, that was Mario 64 was a good restful activity. So, if I decide to do it, I will, but I'm not going to be beholden to getting all the stars. I'm not going to be beholden to getting 100% of Super Mario World. If I don't want to beat Tubular because I'm like, this sucks, I'm not going to. Part of that is because I just did a video game, XCOM Enemy Unknown, which turned into what I call Angry Quest to Finish, which is a phrase I borrow from my good friend Alec. There's a little story behind it. So we used to go to a comic book store in Boulder called Time Warp Comics. I don't even know if it's there anymore. Because, collecting comics in the 90s was kind of about... It was a fun time to collect comics. And the reason why is, you would get your driver's license, and then you'd be like, we've got our regular rotation of comic book stores, right? And for us, that was... there was one in Greeley, which... There was basically Greeley, Fort Collins, and then the occasional Boulder. Boulder was kind of far. Now, there was also Mile High Comics in Denver, which was pretty huge, but everything was, super high priced. So it's like, if you needed something and you were just like, I need to read this at any price, that's where you would go. But if you were like a normal human who was like, I don't have infinite money, you would go somewhere else. Where would you go? Somewhere else. So we didn't go there. We would go there occasionally. And when I would go to this is the Infinite Lives opportunity, right? Nope. When we would go to Mile High was like, I would be working at McDonald's, right? And I would save a couple paychecks and have an exorbitant amount of money, like $200, and spend it all on comics. And then I would go home and read most of them within 24 hours, and then some of them twice within 24 hours. And if you spent your money on something that sucked, it was fucking devastating. Because you were just like, that was like 3 hours of work that I just spent this money on. It's kind of something that always has, I fancy myself a minor writer. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's like the one thing I would not want to have happen, is for someone to read a book I wrote and be like, look at the price and be like, well, that was 3 hours of work that I just, kind of wasted. Because that would make me pretty sad. Because A, you're probably making less than minimum wage, by the way, with my books, but B, that hits home, that feels very real when someone's like, oh, it was 3 hours of work for me to read your book, and boy, when someone spends 3 hours of work money to read your book and then is disappointed, you're like, well, I think this person, went into it wanting to enjoy it. Because they wouldn't have spent that much of their money, versus work time if they didn't actually want to read it. You know what I mean? Anyway. Okay, so we had one in Greeley for a long time in my hometown. Oh, God. And it was like it was originally called Hobnob. Sports, comics, cards, collectibles. And it was in like a nicer shopping center at first. And, it was run by this guy for the most part named Jerry, I think was his name. And Jerry was like an older guy who over time I've gotten a little more sympathetic to, because I think there was a time where comic book stores were run by like a couple kinds of people. I think a lot of comic book stores were owned by people who did not give a shit about comics. Like a lot of them, I think, actually were sports guys, or maybe coin guys, because, the coin store and the comic store were often the same. But also, they did a lot of business in cards back in the day. So baseball cards, stuff like that, and eventually that got into Marvel cards and so on. And that was like, boy, trading cards had like one of the bigger collector's bubbles of all time, right? Because, I don't know exactly why, but my theory is like at some point there was a comic book collector's bubble too, where people were kind of like any issue number one, any event. Like Death of Superman was probably the quintessential example of this, where a bunch of people bought it because they were like, bought multiple copies and whatever, because they're like, this is it. This is the last Superman comic, and I think real collectors and readers and stuff were kind of like skeptical about like, really, this is the end of Superman forever and all time. Like you can't bring him back. But, I think it was not too long before they brought him back. And even when he was dead, there was still comics of like Death of Superman, Funeral for a Friend, all these things. Which, by the way, I was like, Funeral for a Friend? He was my friend. That just seemed kind of like a weak whatever. So, Superman dies, everyone buys the issues, because they're like, this is going to put my kids through college. And I think the collector's bubble kind of happened when people were like, oh, okay, Death of Superman never becomes worth the same as like Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man. Now, why is that? Many reasons. But, the basics are, when Amazing Fantasy 15 came out, no one knew Spider-Man was going to be a hit, right? It was kind of like, at that time, they were just like, let's just try everything. Any idea you can think of, no idea too stupid, no idea too silly. We're just going to go for it and see what happens. And the other thing is, for a really long time, comics were considered super disposable. They weren't really collectibles. They weren't collected. It was like you got them from the grocery store. They were all fucked up most of the time. And you read them over and over because you were a kid, and that's, the scarcity of whatever. But at the end of the day, it was like, there wasn't like a lot of people who were, collecting comics, certainly not for like monetary value. If you were collecting comics way back when, it was because you just wanted to read them. And, you were a completionist. But I don't think there was much thought put into like, then I'm going to flip these and sell them someday. And that changed. But, a big part of the problem was, like, they printed very few Amazing Fantasy 15s, and then very few of them were in good condition, and it turned out to be this big book, but there was a scarcity. So it's like, scarcity combined with desirability is what kind of builds value in collectibles, right? So I think that's kind of how... Is this the one that's like a maze? Like you have to go a certain way? Oh god. Okay. Yeah, I think this is the maze one. Oh god. Oh god. So, comics had this bubble burst because eventually they were like, oh, okay, so like this comic's not worth anything just because it's a number one. Because they printed 1 billion of them. But also people are like, I don't know, North Star number 1. No one cares, right? Cards hit that bubble probably 10 times worse. Because, there was like, oh my god, if I had like a Mickey Mantle rookie card, that would be amazing. But they had the same sort of idea as comics, right? Which is like, well, they were scarce back in the day because it was like nobody was saving these in an album. So, there were like X number of Mickey Mantle rookie cards in the world. None of them were in great shape. So if you had one, it was valuable. But other than that, So anyway, these comics guys, I think we all think of like the comic book guy from The Simpsons, right? As like the quintessential comic book owner, comic book store owner. But I found there was like another type, which was like a guy who was like basically just a small business owner. And, comics for him were probably about, I don't think Jerry, who ran Hobnob, as we'll just call it, because who's going to object to that? I think Jerry didn't really care about comics. He certainly wasn't like... You wouldn't go in there and he's like, holy shit, did you read the new Flash? You know what I mean? He was just kind of like, he would open a slot for you. And what that meant is he would pre-order a copy for you of something. And then, put it in your slot so that you wouldn't go in on new book day and be like, fuck, the new Flash is all sold out. He would order a copy especially for you outside of what he was ordering to put on the shelf. Oh, damn it. And that way you could be ensured you'd get it. Okay, really quick. I'm going to have to come back to this tangent because I think it's about to happen. Part of what I'm doing in this playthrough is I am going to let myself use the continue trick, which I had just learned about, and it is November 2022. And I was like surfing the internet and saw this clickbait article that was like, you've been playing Super Mario Brothers wrong your whole life. And I was like, most of these articles that say you've been doing it wrong your whole life are incorrect. Or, they'll tell me to do it this way. And I'm like, I don't know. It'll be something dumb. Like, you should be shampooing your hair after you wash your body with soap. Some shit like that. And I'm just like, oh, who fucking cares? This article informed me that there is a code where I think the code is you hold A on the continue screen of this game. When you lose and you're back to the title screen, you hold A and push start, and then you get to start from where you left off. Well, let's see. I'm going to just push and hold A. Yes, it worked. Oh my god. Is this where I was? Is this where I was? Well, I wasn't on World 1-1. Okay, so I just did it. I pushed and held A somewhere where it said game over. and then push start, and it let me continue from world 5-1. So the deal is, this is a thing that's built into this game that I did not know about. It seems that the internet was very divided about this, as far as, a lot of people were like, who didn't know about that? And I was like, I didn't know about that. And I was not an underinformed video gamester. Maybe it lets you just restart from the world, huh? Because I think I finished this world. But I was not an underinformed video game guy. We had Nintendo Power, and I didn't know about this. So it did feel a little like, holy shit, there's a thing. Okay, it's definitely from the world, so not the level. So that's something. I've decided to use this thing, and I'll tell you why. I feel like because being built into the game that way, originally, I think it's fair game. But the other reason is I'm putting it like the Contra code. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA start. Which is like, people can argue that if you've beaten Contra with the Contra code, you haven't really beaten Contra. You should do it pure. You should do it with, not extra life. You should do it on 3 lives as opposed to 30? 20? A lot more. 7 to 10 times more lives than, you're given as it would appear. The reason I would say that, though, is because, my opinion of Contra is that Contra code Contra is the correct way to play Contra. In that, I think beating that game on 3 lives and 3 continues is like an unfun challenge. It's like, that's the advanced challenge. And, Nintendo games were to an extent pitched to default to the advanced challenge, I think. And it's like, that's kind of, I think, a big thing that's changed in video games, is I would say, normal mode now is sort of where the game is pitched. And I think most games are ideally played on the mode that they would call normal. And people who've played it a lot will find that too easy. But that's cool. That's why the hard mode exists, right? But I feel like the ideal experience is normal mode. I kind of think, oh my god, that this game's normal mode is probably continuing from the world where you left off. That's part of video games developing over time too, is you might look at it and say well, that's kind of how old Nintendo games were. You had to start from the beginning, and that was the punishment for not playing very good. But I think over time, games have really developed to not do that, and to be more forgiving of, have oh my god, to have password systems, right, is a big change. And I think that's for the better. I know some purist type people are probably ugh, you millennials and your easy video gaming or something, but I feel pretty strongly that a game should be designed to be a reasonable level of challenge. But if it's too challenging, it kind of loses its fun, right? Or if it's too challenging right away, it should give you a mode where you can play through it a little bit, get your feet wet, and then be okay, I know how to do this. And, at that point you could decide, is this a thing where I should challenge myself further, and that would be enjoyable? Or was that an adequate challenge? Anyway, I think the adequate, correct challenge of Super Mario is continuing from, the world. Especially because it's the world, not the stage. The stage feels I think you could brute force your way through any stage with 3 lives. But probably an entire world, which is 4 stages, that's less than 1 life per stage. So it's that's not going to be easy. And And I do feel like, there is the infinite lives trick, right? That I attempted and I've never gotten to work. But I wouldn't feel that was cheating. I don't know why. I would feel like that's taking advantage of a thing, but it's also difficult to do, so it's okay. But more than that, this is like about me feeling like I'm maturing, which is to say, I want to do this Mario challenge to myself, but I want to have fun this year because, I think as you age, you start to get into this mindset, right, of life is not infinitely long. And in a world where I could play every game and watch every movie and read every book, it's sure, I can afford to read. If I was a vampire, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to just read all the classics, because why the hell not? But I'm not a vampire that I know of. I mean, maybe if I was drinking blood, maybe I'm a vampire, and the way that I feel is actually much worse than I should feel day to day. I should be feeling a lot more amazing than this. That was weird. And I'm basically a vampire who's, dying in the movies where they're like, ugh! But I just don't know it because this is all I've ever known, because I've never drank human baby's blood. I'm not a vampire. I don't plan on having an infinite life. I mean, maybe if it happens, great. That would be great. But I don't think it's going to. I feel like it's better to plan for it to not happen. How about that? And therefore, I'm like, let's do some of these things, but let's do them in a fun, tolerable way. Because maybe if you do them in a fun, tolerable way, you'll actually do it. Because, I haven't finished this game, and I think a part of it is because it's, not fun to me to play the same freaking levels 1,000 times. Which is very likely. I've played, you saw me play the first 3 worlds with, no real problem, right? And I think that's probably most people who are my age could probably play those first few worlds of Mario with no issue. Yes. And playing those over and over again is definitely an experience I've had. And so this does let me play, World 5 a couple times until I get it right, and then World 6 a couple times until I get it right. I think this is usually about how far I could make it, once if I'd been practicing. Ooh! Oh, that was lucky. But anyway, this just feels more fun to me. So it's a challenge. It's not no challenge, but it's also not angry quest to finish. Brings me back to my comic book stories. I guess if you feel I'm copping out and not really finishing, go fuck yourself. Do your own challenge. You make it to 40 years old and then set your own challenge and enjoy. All right? Fuck you. All right, back to comic book stores. Let's do angry quest to finish story. So one time my friend and I went to Boulder Time Warp Comics, and they had this burger place next door. And what this burger place had was this burger called a 4x4. So it was 4 patties with 4 slices of cheese. And it was enormous. It was a huge burger. And my friend was not out of control where he wasn't Man versus Food 1.0. You know what I mean? But one day we were there, and I guess he just must have been fucking hungry because he was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna eat this 4x4. Should I get it? And I was like, if you want. So he did. And, he ate the first probably 2/3 of it pretty handily. And he was still going strong towards the end. But, I was like, how is it? And he was like, this has turned from just a fun sort of lunch or whatever to angry quest to finish. And it's just, I'm angry at myself for doing this to myself. I'm angry at the world. I don't know why I'm finishing. And this is definitely, so much of this has been about aging today, but like, this is a young man's thing. Like, for example, if I was at a bar as a young man and I ordered a beer, there was no way I was not going to finish that beer. You know what I mean? It could have been the worst tasting thing with like a human severed finger in it. And I'd be like, well, I don't want to waste it. You know what I mean? And as an adult, I'm a little bit more inclined to be like, if I'm not enjoying this, I don't need to finish it. Or like if I was at a bar as an adult and I ordered a beer and sort of realized halfway through, like, finishing this beer would be a mistake. I'm drunk and I don't need to be more of drunk. So finishing this would be an unwise choice. That's a choice I can make as an adult. And it's nice to be in the position as an adult to be like, just because I ordered a beer and made the mistake of at one time thinking this is what I wanted, doesn't mean I have to follow through. You know what I mean? This is not Promise Keepers, where it's like, I promised to this bartender, I guess, that I would drink this beer. It was implied by, ordering this beer implied that I was going to drink the entire thing. And you can just be like, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to finish this beer. I'm an adult. Whenever you're screaming, I'm an adult, you're living life the right way. So Angry Quest to finish, that's kind of what I think this would turn into if I was like gonna do the whole like, all right, I'm gonna play every Mario 100% all the way through, no continues or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what this would turn into. And that's not what I want my 39th year to be. I want my 39th year to be like fun. And it can be a challenge, and I think it will be, because I'm not, as you may be observing, an expert by any means at video games or, broadcasting video games or living life or having healthy relationships or finances or anything. There's nothing in which I'm an expert. So it will be challenging, but I think that will maintain it as fun. And I won't be like dreading coming to this to play. You know what I mean? If I make it easy enough for myself, if I make it possible for myself, I think, oh my God, that's a lot of bullets. So that's why I've made this decision. I don't want this to be Angry Quest to finish. I don't want this to be the Alec 4x4 cheeseburger situation. Because, yeah, when you do that, too, you're like, I don't know, do you ever want to eat at that burger place again? Of course not. You're like, well, my memory of this now is like Angry Quest to finish. As opposed to, I liked this burger enough to consider ordering 4 of it in one. Let's go back to comic book stores then. Okay, so Jerry owned the Hobnob, the Greeley comic book store and card store. And like I was saying, my suspicion is he was maybe a sports guy, maybe a card guy, maybe a coin guy. I don't think his passion lied in comic books necessarily. But, he was like a small business owner, and at the time, you could run a comic and card store, and that was like a possibly lucrative business. I think today it would be almost impossible. I mean, I listen to a podcast quite a bit, Tell 'em Steve Dave, and like one of the guys on there is Walt Flanagan, who ran the Secret Stash in Red Bank, New Jersey, home of Comic Book Men TV show, and, a bunch of Kevin Smith stuff, and so they had some advantages there, right? Because people would come to there. I went there because of the podcast / that's like the Kevin Smith Mecca, I guess. If you're going to pilgrimage, you'll go out that way. And so, it's like a nerd pilgrimage, right? Maybe not anymore, but at that time for sure. I don't even think I knew this other underwater level existed. Things you never knew existed, a Johnson Smith catalog. So, they had some things that would bring people to the store, right? Beyond just like, well, we've got our regulars who buy comics here, which they had, but they would also get people who came out because they were like, oh, I'm interested in Kevin Smith stuff. And it's like, right on. And then, the TV show, Comic Book Men, like breathed some more life into the store for a while and so on. But at one point on the podcast, someone was like asking his advice on opening a comic book store, and his advice was don't, because it's just like so hard to make it as a comic book store. I mean, it's always been hard, and now it's like impossible. And of course, a lot of this is going to be, attributable to your eBay and so on, right? Because, I mean, the deal is, if I'm going to sell comic books to a comic book store, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to roll in there and sell them a book. Damn it. But what's going to happen is, let's say it retails for $100. Like, that's what I would expect to pay for it if I was buying it. They're going to offer me $65. Because, they have to make a profit off of it, right? They can't just pay me $100 and then sell it for $100, and then they're like, okay, well, all the bills we have to pay this month, I don't know where that money is coming from. Oh my God. So the thing is, on an eBay or something, you don't have to deal with that, right? You pay a service fee or whatever, but you know what that's going to be. You decide how much shipping it, you know what you're going to walk away with in an eBay situation. Oh God, I hate those things. So anyway, I think that's been the death of the comic book store. Difficult to make it as a comic book store, right? But in the 90s, it was a different world. There was no eBay. And if I wanted a card set, I could get a card set. If I wanted a comic book, I had to go to a comic book store. And, this was kind of the fun of collecting comics in the 90s that I think eBay has really killed. So it's killed, the portion of the industry of like comic book stores and stuff to an extent. There's still some, but, not like there was, and for better or worse. Now, what was fun was like, okay, I came of like driving age in the late 90s. And so, we would drive around to our different comic stores. And like, you just got your license, so you were like, oh, look at this amazing freedom I have. And, you'd go and be like, okay, well, I couldn't find this book at this store, but let's go to this store, and so on and so forth. And you kind of knew the different proclivities of each store. Like, Jerry Hobnob was like, he didn't give a shit about comics, and you could get a slot there, so he'd put aside a copy for you instead of putting it on the rack. But he wasn't like the most consistent about it. You couldn't, if you were like a hardcore collector, and you're like, look, I have every Uncanny X-Men up till today, and I want to keep that train rolling, obviously, right? Jerry would not be my guy. And like, he didn't really give you something that would usually happen if you had a slot, as they call it, if you were a reservist. Usually something that was kind of implied with that too is that like you were a serious collector. And so like, if I'm the comic book store owner, and let's say I have 4 copies of Adventures of Superman, and they come in and I'm like, a couple of these are a little beat up. Those are the ones I put on the rack, and then the ones I put in the reservist slots are the nicer ones. Because, like, those are your core customers, and you want to keep those customers because you're like, well, they'll keep coming back. But if I keep giving them fucked up shit, they're not going to come back. Or if I sell this reserve book to somebody who's looking for it, the reservist might not come back, right? Jerry wasn't very good about that stuff. Jerry would, like, give you a beat up copy sometimes, or like a, I suspected it would be hard to know. Okay, this is a maze, right? So I have to figure out how to get to the next part of the maze. Okay. Damn it. Okay. Top, bottom. Let's go top, bottom, top. All right, bottom. Top. Top. Oh boy. Bottom. Let's do bottom. Bottom. Nope. Top. 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 I don't think I've done like middle. Is that an option? Top. Middle. Top. Top. Middle. Bottom. Bottom. Middle. Top. Aha! Bottom, middle, top. Oh god, this is another one? Okay. Top. Bottom. Oh boy. It can't be this, can it? That you have to go that way? That would be insane. Why would they make you do that? Alright, let's try World 7 again. You can hear in my voice already, right? I'm like, ugh, World 7 again. But this is good because I get to try it a little bit more. It's like I can actually learn the game and have a chance to succeed. One of the frustrating things about, like, let's say Ninja Gaiden, right? Very difficult game. And it's not unfair until you get to the end, where it makes you replay a bunch of stuff. If you get to the final boss and you lose, you have to start all over on the on the last world, basically, to use Mario terminology. And so what stinks crap. What stinks about it is you barely get to fight the boss and you lose right away. And then you have to go through all this other stuff before you can fight him again. And you have to fight him a few times before you're even remotely close to figuring out how the mechanics of how you might beat him. And so that becomes very frustrating, right? But this isn't so bad because the levels aren't that long. This is another one, I think, where you can do the thing that I've never made work. Okay. So Jerry kind of didn't give a shit. He was kind of the lackadaisical comic book store owner, I guess. But it also did sometimes feel like he was taking advantage of you. And he would do this thing where, so he would say, okay, let's say I'm subscribing to Flash and it's $4 a month. He would say, I have to order them 3 months out. So in order to start a reservist slot, you have to pay me $12. Because that way, if you cancel, I can pay for if you just stop showing up, I'll cancel your slot and I'm not stuck with this stuff. Which I'm like, that's not unfair. But it always seemed like, he'd have you put that deposit down, and then when it was time to, if you're like, I'm going to stop getting this and start getting this or whatever, it was like, your deposit sort of magically disappeared. It was kind of my first landlord rental experience of didn't I put down a deposit? What was that deposit for? I'm not sure. And he slowly moved to shittier and shittier locations. So he was first in the the nicer what would you call it? Strip mall, I guess, in town. I mean, this is a suburban place, so it's not like he's going to be in a high rise or whatever. A strip mall at the time was like what you would expect it, where you would expect something like this to be if it was doing good. Then he moved to a slightly shittier strip mall, and then to a really shitty strip mall before eventually closing. And, you know, each iteration of the comic book store, there was like fewer and fewer comics on the rack and like whatever. And towards the end there, I wasn't even going there anymore. I would just go there with my friend. And so, and you know, that was like the slow demise of Hobnob or Jerry's Cards and Comics or whatever. There was Haley's in Fort Collins, which I think still exists. I'm like, I know it still existed at some point. Okay, wait. Damn it, I don't remember. Top, bottom, no. Let's do bottom, middle, top. BMT? BMT. I have a feeling it's this. Don't you feel like that's probably what's going on here? It just feels like this is a far more challenging route and therefore must be the route. Okay, I think I've done bottom. Maybe it is top. Okay, top. What would it be then? Like middle? Top, top? Did I do it? Top, top. Okay. Still don't remember the first one now. Kind of lost track. Woo! Yes! That was very lucky. These Bowser patterns seemed impossible as a child, and now they seem kind of doable. Hey, I'm in World 8, everybody. I didn't know if this would happen the first time. But let's not discount the possibility that I will get extremely frustrated and, you know, give up and then, you know, as the rules go. So I'll do the continue thing, but if I, you know, turn off the thing and I start over. That's fair. I mean, the other good thing about this game is like, you know, I'm not exactly like flying through it. And, you know, I've only been playing for like 45 minutes, half hour. So it is a game that you can reasonably play for a short period. As opposed to like a game where you're like, well, if I don't play this for like a 2-hour chunk, it's really like there's no progress to be made in less than 2 hours. Really. So Haley's was good. Here's the thing about Haley's. Okay, I came to loving cats later in life. And, you know, I didn't hate cats when I was a kid. I didn't care for pets for most of my life. I mostly saw them as a nuisance, which they are. But I guess, you know, maybe my paternal instincts kicked in and was like, nuisance, it equals good or something. But they had, I don't know if it was their cats that were always there or if they were always, I know at some point it was a husband and wife team who ran Haley's, and they seemed to be sort of like old hippies. And they were very nice. The lady was especially nice. The guy was medium nice, but she had a series of, I think they were stray cats she took in. And the result of this was that Haley's Comics always smelled extremely strongly of cat pee. And it was like, I mean, when I say extremely strongly of cat pee, I'm like talking about, you know how sometimes you'll be walking in a neighborhood and from outside a house you smell cat and you're just like, oh my God, like, is that coming from, it's coming from inside the house. That's what going to Haley's was like every time you went in. And it was pretty tough. It was pretty bad. You know, you had to like curtail the time you spent in there because at some point they had a lot of back issues too that I always wanted to look through, but I was just like, I can't take it that long. And, you always wondered, too. You're like, do all these comics reek of cat pee? I think I smell like cat pee when I leave? I mean, it was bad. It's funny how I'm, like, describing, like, the charm of, 90s versus eBay collecting. And I'm like, well, I do have to say this for, the eBay era. You won't smell like cat pee by shopping on eBay. And if a comic you bought on eBay reeked of cat pee, that seller would get 0 whatever, and you would just go to some other seller. You would never use that seller again. Then around the corner from Haley's for a long time was a place called Marshak's, ran by a guy named Marshak. Marshak's smelled like body odor. Marshak's was kind of my first experience of a place where people played Dungeons and Dragons, Magic cards, things like that. And, as charming as Dungeons and Dragons is today and appears on Stranger Things program, something that I think contributes to that charm is that you can't smell it because it stank in there. I mean, it was bad. And, I think, I don't know. I mean, it makes sense. I'm sure there were many times at that age that I did not smell good. I'm just fairly certain that that's the case. However, it was just like out of control. Also, there was this time I went into... So another aspect of collecting comics at this time was holding grudges against people, like comic store owners. The grudge I held against Marshak, one time I went in there and I was looking at a book. Now, this was a trade paperback, so it was shelved on a bookshelf, right? With the spine facing out as opposed to face out. Face out. I'm going to take his face out. And so there was a book laying on top of all the other books. So it wasn't in place. It was just laying on top of all the other trade paperbacks. And it was something I was interested in. Oh, shit. Okay, good. I wasn't holding A the whole time. It was something I was interested in, so I picked it up, looked at it, and then put it back, and I put it back where I picked it up. And Marshak came walking over, and he was like comic book store guy, except not fat. But, he had a ponytail, he had glasses, he was an asshole. And he came over and was just like, do you know how a library works? Which was funny because at this time I actually worked in a library. And, later would be a librarian. But he was like, do you know how a library works? And I was like, yes. And he was like, so you put things back where they go instead of just laying them on top? And I was like, that's where I found it. And he was like, no, you didn't. Put it back where it goes. And it took me forever to figure out where it went because it was not close to where it was supposed to be. And so from then on, I basically swore off Marshak's, although I did go there sometimes because you're just like, as much pride as you can have as a comic book collector, that's all you need to say, right? It's not like pride is the driving factor of comic book collecting. It's definitely more likely to be comic book collecting and completionism and whatever. So I would go there because sometimes they had shit that I needed. Why do I keep jumping between those fucking turtles? It's the worst way to do that. So that was Marshak's. Time Warp in Boulder I didn't have a ton of experience with because it was, Boulder was pretty far away. But also I just, and I didn't really have occasion to be in Boulder. But it was aight. Now, then there was Mile High Comics in Denver. So here was the situation with Mile High. Mile High was perfect if you saved up a couple McDonald's paychecks and went in there with $200 and all you bought was trade paperbacks. Because here's the deal. A trade paperback is like, when they slap 4 to 6 issues of a comic into one paperback book. And with those, they generally, except in very rare circumstances, the pricing on them was kind of like bookstore style. So, it was like, it would just say $12.99 on the back, and that's what it cost. Whereas back issues, so like, I want to get Amazing Spider-Man 282. That they could charge whatever they wanted. And whatever Mile High wanted was the highest price in the Overstreet comic book buyer's guide. So what was kind of bullshit about Overstreet was like, the idea was, and this was, in the pre-eBay era, right? So I, as a comic book store owner, let's say, want to know, like, what's a fair price for this book? And, I, as a comic book buyer, would ideally have the same guide. So we would both be looking at the same thing and be able to say, like, well, Overstreet has it at this. Now, the thing is, most comic book stores and comic book buyers would see this as like a beginning of a point of negotiation. In other words, like, Overstreet says this, but it's like, okay, for example, does it make sense for a comic book store in rural Colorado to charge the same for an older book as a comic book store in San Francisco, in Manhattan, right? Because you're like, well, nothing costs the same, so it should be a little cheaper here. And, it's sort of, I think, and, I'm obviously biased because I was the buyer and never the seller, but I think it's kind of like, this was just to kind of give everybody, like, some kind of common ground to begin on, but not really to create, like, that's what it's worth. But Mile High would be like, basically, what Overstreet says it's worth is what it's worth, and that's what we're going to charge you. And it was also kind of bullshit because another thing that Overstreet did was, there was grading of comics. Now, at this time, the grading of comics was very scattershot because it really depended on the person doing the grading. And the thing is unless you were an expert, it was very difficult to grade a comic, and it was also very difficult to argue with the grade given to a comic. So you might get one, for example, and then they're like, okay, this is in near mint condition. So that would be like a more valuable book. But then you get it home and you discover things and you're like, I don't know if, compared to this other book that I got that is also allegedly near mint, this seems awfully different. And so that was always a thing with comics, and trying to do that. And Mile High always seemed to be on the higher end. Mile High prices more like, I'm sure some comic book people must have made those jokes. And that's still true today. Mile High still exists, and I was just there a couple weeks ago. And I was looking through back issues, and like, this is a whole thing about comics too, is like, a back issue of a series that no one's really invested in and so on and so forth. It's pretty difficult to come up with like a fair price. But I feel confident saying that, like, in a comic that no one really cares about, that's not really going anywhere, you're never going to sell it for $12. And it's like, I guess you can just price it at $12 and just see what happens. But, like, I can't imagine who's going to buy this because I'm like, I'm probably the most interested in this of anyone who's been in this store for several months. And I look at $12 and I'm like, fuck that. And it's kind of mind-boggling, too, because, we do live in the eBay world, and I can just look at eBay and be like, well, this is the price of it on eBay. And the thing with Mile High, too, is it's like, I don't know, on the one hand, if it was like, this is a mom and pop shop where we mostly use the money we make here to, like, foster feral cats or something, you're like, well, I guess $12, at least I feel like that $12 is going back to the community, by which I mean cats, which I consider the community. Because, I've got toxoplasmosis in my blood. But Mile High has never really felt like that to me. It's always felt a lot more. It was like the big guy before there were the big guys. So I don't know. I've never felt that loyal to it. But one time we went there, and previously mentioned friend Alex. So here's the other thing. Mile High was the only store I knew of where you might go and try and sell stuff that you had. And he had a bunch of X-Men action figures. So one time we went there and he tried to sell those. And he, the way they conducted the sale was this lady who worked there was like, well, what do you think's a fair price for him? And he's like, I really don't know. Like, what do you think's a fair price for him? And she's like, no, you name your price. And then we'll negotiate. And he's like, okay. So he named a price. And, I have no memory of what it was or if it was ridiculously high or low, but I think he was probably being genuine at the very least. And she laughed at him and was like, that's not even close to a fair price for these. Which well, first of all, he was 15 or something, we were young men in the world of, young boys in the world of men, which at that moment was being run by a woman, I guess. But she had the negotiating power, she had the authority in the situation. And I don't know, it felt like a trap. It felt like it was tell me what you think it's worth, and then I will call you stupid for thinking it's worth that much and make you an incredible lowball offer, which is pretty ridiculously low and you shouldn't take. But you might take it now because you sort of just feel like you should, because you've wasted my time or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly how. Oh, that was clumsy. I don't know exactly how it worked, but so that was another vendetta to hold against Mile High, which was just don't badger me into saying what would you take for him? What do you think's fair? Blah, blah, blah. And say that 100 times. And then when he says a price, you're like, oh, are you fucking serious? You know what I mean? That was what it felt like anyway. So those were the comic book stores in my youth. Weird. I know how we got there, which is Angry Quest to Finish, and that was the origin of that because we were on a comic book trip when that happened. I was just thinking about Angry Quest to Finish the other day. And so that's probably what brought it up. One of my favorite life moments. One of my other favorite moments from my friendship with Alec was I was driving us to a comic book store one time, and he had his list, which was a paper printed out list of stuff to look for, right? And I have one to this day. And it's, they're usually clumsy looking hand scrawled lists and whatever, and it's fun. But at some point, I don't know, we were probably in our early 20s, maybe late teens, and he turned over his list because we were kind of talking about our lives in, whatever sense. And he decided to start graphing his happiness over his life. And, so he was like, okay, well, this is when I was a kid. So I think I was fairly happy as a kid and whatever. And I'm just going to put this in the middle because you don't really, when do you come online as a human being, as a child, whatever. But then at this point, this happened and that was pretty good. And then this happened and I was way down here, I'd never seen someone try to sort of create this objective document graph of their level of happiness through life. And it was extremely amusing and fun to watch. And, a memory to this day. It's I wonder if that still exists somewhere. It's possible. I don't know if I'm sure he's not on the same list anymore, but it's possible that he's preserved his lists or something. Who knows? But yeah, that was a big moment in hilarious friendship. Whoa. Maybe it's playing this game has made me nostalgic. I was going to say nostalgic for the past, but that kind of is what nostalgia means, right? Longing for the past. Can you be nostalgic for the future? Can you be nostalgic for a past that never was? That's like a trailer for an indie movie, something someone would say. Like, this level is, I mean, I've beat it a couple times here, as you've seen, so it doesn't feel impossible. It's pretty difficult, apparently, but it's not impossible. I keep doing that, which seems like the worst way to accomplish that, but now that I've done it so many times, it's like the only way. The coins really become scarce, don't they? I bet there's some in these bricks. Or maybe there's like a vine or something. Whoa. A vine or something somewhere that I'm missing because I'm just not trying to do that. I should probably check those bricks next time, shouldn't I? Hey, alright, coins. It would be curious, I'm sure you could look this up, like, at what point in the game is there fewer than 100 coins remaining on the board? Like, you know, once you're at level 8-1, if you collected every possible coin, is there 100? Because if there's not, then you should just not bother, right? I mean, once you've collected enough that you're like, well, that's the maximum I've got left in the tank here. You could just stop. That's strategy, right? That's Nintendo playing strategy. Dang it. I have a feeling there might be something in there too, but not gonna do it. I get so psyched out sometimes. Didn't expect that double shot. Oh, bullets are so unpredictable. It seems like the mushrooms become scarce too. You know, I bet there's, you know, like, yeah, exactly. I pushed duck because I got a mushroom there. Okay, great. That was great. Well, I guess I could keep trying to get that mushroom, huh? As long as I make it to the mushroom. It sort of like becomes a little more like a Castlevania game because you kind of like, yeah, see, that's gonna be the problem. You can find like a discrete way to beat everything, right? Like you can kind of consider each bad guy a challenge. Like I was like, okay, if I run, he'll drop that first egg thing down the pit. So then I don't have to deal with that. Oh man. Oh man. What if these turtles, you know, some of them have wings? Some of the ones without wings are like, what the hell, man? I wonder why all these creatures are so against Mario. Or like so pro Bowser. Like, what's he doing for them? And some of them, like your like Kitus, who are floating in a cloud, and they seem to have goggles, so they have like some equipment. And then like they're throwing. Oh my god, that was a trap. What? No. That's the first one that I felt was cheap. Maybe that double bullet. That also felt a little cheap, but I was amused by it, I guess. See, this is the stages of Pete playing a video game, too. Things tend to get a little sloppier at some point, because you're like, well, I'm bored of this, so I want to get through it as fast as possible. And then you make the mistake of being like, as fast as possible means running the whole way. But really what it ends up meaning is dying a lot more, and it is much slower as a result. Look at all these turds. These turtles. I mean, there must be something down there, right? Because, like, there's no reason to be down there. Oh, God. See, that's the other thing. Sometimes the star is a trap, isn't it? Because it's like trying to convince you to go fast. But when you go fast, you make mistakes. I feel like there's a level, and maybe I haven't got there yet, but I feel like there's a level in this game that's kind of exceptionally long. And so if you don't hustle, wow, you won't make it through the level. You know, the time, you're kind of working against the clock as much as anything. I'm pretty sure that's a thing in this game, but I'm not totally sure. By the way, oh man, I've decided to forego Super Mario The Lost Levels because, again, angry quest to finish versus like attempt to do something. You know, if I get to the end of this thing and I'm like, I've played all the Mario games that exist that, you know, fall into this sort of category, then I'll be like, all right, fuck it. Maybe I'll go for it, but I don't foresee that happening. And even if I do, I might just be like, you know, not worth it. Here's the hard thing. I'm like getting close to the point today where I'm like, you know, maybe that's good for today. That's a hard thing to do in World 8. Because you're like, hey, I had a pretty decent run. I had some pretty good luck on the Bowsers that I don't know if is replicable. So you kind of don't want to do that, but at the same time, I can look at it as like, well, I've been 39 for 2 days, and I made it to World 8 on here, so that's not bad. That doesn't bode too badly for the future. Kind of wish it let me start on the level instead of the world, though. I've already shifted from being like, that's a very fair challenge, to like, well, you know, would be nice. What's this obsession with a fair challenge? What's fair about this? I gotta kill so many of these things and defeat so many pits, and how's that fair? You know, the ratio of lives to possible ways to die in this game is like completely out of whack. Metaphor for life, really. It's like, yeah, the ratio of lives you get to ways that those could end prematurely. Pretty skewed ratio there. I'm kind of looking forward to Mario 2. Not gonna lie. I don't know why. I think that's one I played sort of a lot as a kid. Like, you know, I guess something to say about this challenge too is that like I was not a good video gamer as a kid. I did okay, but mostly I would watch my older brother play a game and then try to do exactly what he did. So that worked great for like Super Mario Land, Super Mario 4, because you know there were options for more power-ups. It's a little bit easier game, and you know it's like figuring out secrets and stuff was the big thing. So I could watch him do it and then just kind of try and do what he did. But you know, like these games are a little harder. And like I didn't have much success on these kinds of games as a kid. And then as an adult, I think I'm going to credit being a little more patient, even though I'm not what I would describe as a patient person, but I have some access to the emotion of patience or the control of patience or something. I have some ability in that realm as opposed to no ability. And I think that's changed, and I've had a lot more video game success as an adult. Like I played, I think Mega Man's 1 through 6 I finished, which was pretty cool. Okay. Oh man. I'm not quite sure how to do that one. Am I jump over the pipe while running? Maybe is the move. So, like with difficult games especially, I've had at least some successes as an adult. Whereas a kid, I would say, I could, like Mega Man 1, I could beat Cut Man, and I think that's it. So, like, I feel like this is more possible, and Mario Brothers 2 is one that I just feel like I've underexplored or underplayed. I think, too, like, Mario 3 I've played a lot of as a kid, but, I've played a lot of the different worlds, like World 8 and stuff, which seems fucking impossible. But I played it a lot because, like, you could get the warp whistles, right? And you could skip over stuff and do some of these things, which I'm not planning to do in this run through. But, if things get desperate, I'll do it. Don't get me wrong. I am not above using a warp whistle. Oh, God. Is that all that's in there? A death trap? A humiliating death trap? Another thing that I'm not good at is like memorization of things like this, which would be an incredible help, because you would think after playing this like as many times as I've played it today, I'd be like, well, at some point I'll remember everything that's coming. So it just becomes a matter of executing the move. But with the foreknowledge of what's about to happen, that should be fairly easy. But that foreknowledge is probably not something I'm gonna have anytime soon. Like I kind of have that for the first very small handful of levels, and that was cemented into my brain before it was like dry, but dry old withered husk of a man that it is today. I don't know how much, it's the difference between trying to write your name in wet cement versus the side of a fucking tree with your finger. Good luck. Good luck, Pete, is what I'm saying to myself. Don't like your chances, but here we are. It's like Kennedy said about, we don't do things because they're easy, we do things because they're hard, right? That's why I'm playing this game, because it's hard. But yeah, doesn't this seem like a doable challenge? Maybe that's like the secret thing about it, or like maybe that's the enticement of it for me, is because I'm like, it seems doable. I mean, I made it to like World 6 or 7 without too much trouble. And then, 2 World 8 without a huge amount of trouble. So it just seems like this should be possible. I like, too, that the levels in this game are kind of short. So you can really make it through them pretty quickly. So it does give you that feeling, for better or worse, too, of like, just gotta hold on a little longer and I'll make, okay. Uh-oh. The run didn't work, guys. Oh, no. Was it just me, or did it look like he like got a little, like the front edge of his foot gripped the wall or something and he almost made it? At least this Likey 2 doesn't follow me the entire level. The Mario giveth and the Mario taketh away, don't it? Good Lord. Alright, I think we're going to take a last shot at it here. I think this is going to be our last shot of the day. But maybe not. if you see there's like 20 more minutes to this video, then I suppose you know more than I do as far as where I gave up. If there's 4 more minutes to this, then you know I probably gave up about when I thought. If there's 35 more seconds, you know that something's about to go terribly wrong. Whew. I have a feeling, too, that this jump that I've had trouble making is very close to the end of the level. I mean, that's a little trick right there on this level, by the way. I think to make you think, like, okay, big pyramid-y thing, that's the end of the level. But it's not. I mean, this is just like... That's like the perfect way to psych out a Pete playing a game. Playing a game with. I have no idea what's in the 8th castle. I'm 100% sure I've never played that castle. 90% sure. Let's not say 100, but I'm fairly certain. Because having not known about the hold A continue trick until, like, this week, I think the chance that I've been there is very low. Okay. Damn it. Yes. I'm officially the furthest I've been. Oh no. Oh no. It'd be nice if that was a halfway point. Oh no. Oh no. Why would it be? How are you supposed to get good if you don't play this over and over? I was originally thinking of doing Castlevanias, but here's the thing. I was like, well, I think I'd want to... Oh, shit. Yes. I think I'd want to start at the beginning. I'm like desperately searching for an item or something. I'd want to start at the beginning. And Castlevania 1, I think that was the end of the level. Balls. Was pretty difficult. It was pretty fair until you get to the end. And like fighting Dracula is like, that's Angry Quest to finish mode. For sure. Probably death as well. And the hallway preceding death. I think I gotta give this one more shot now. Because I got a little further. The hallway preceding death is also probably Angry Quest to finish mode. And so, you know, but then the real problem for me was Castlevania 3. Because I just beat that within the last year or so. But that was an ordeal. And that is one where you're like, the final stage is like this crazy gauntlet to even get to Dracula, and then Dracula is like ridiculously difficult. And it's sort of like, it's the perfect example of an unfun challenge where you're like, you know, I don't know. And like I did it. But, you know, and the only reason I did it was because I was like, this is like 90% of the way through the game. I don't want to give up now, because if I give up now, there's no way I'm coming back to this at any point, right? And you're like, my skills at Castlevania 3 are as sharp as they're ever going to be. I need to see this through. But I was like, I don't know if I want to do that again. You know, and I was like, I guess I could just play the ones I haven't played. But, you know, that, I don't know. That somehow felt not the same. Wasn't the same as a challenge of, like, going through the Mario games in order and, like, trying to finish them. And also, you know, I guess Mario Mario's been a consistently good. Like, whenever you get a Nintendo console, right? I think the Mario game is the way you want to go. Because the Mario game is never, like, bad. You're never like, that was a piece of shit. It's always at least fun and interesting, even if it's not that hard or it's not whatever. I will tell you, there was, I think it's Super Mario Galaxy 2. And, like, the last star I got was this one called The Perfect Run. You can look it up. That was really difficult. And, it felt a little like this game is feeling right now, where it's like, success is just out of reach, you know? But, it was exceptionally hard. And, like, I think it's one of the bigger Mario challenges that exists in Mario history, as far as, like, a single achievement, like a single level or something. And, yeah, bad. Poonmaster Flex is dancing excitedly. Oh, and her hip just popped. I'm at World 8, but I can't beat World 8-2.
Did you start this today?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not bad, huh? Okay, we're back. We did a burrito break. See if that gives me the NG to make it through this. The will. The iron will. I still don't know what World 8-3 is, though. Or World 8-4, which I assume is going to be a hellscape. An impossible hellscape. Not falling for that one on this very particular time. Whew. Generous. Very generous of you, game. Can you get lower on the flag? Maybe. That might be possible. Woo! Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. Oh, come on. Woo. Okay. Yes! Yes! Burrito power. We did it. As far as I've ever been. So this could be the long one. I think I've played this level before. Probably via warping, right? Warping, continuing cheating somehow. Because I kind of remember... Oh, shit. I certainly remember these fellows. And, like, trying to battle these Hammer Brothers with no power-ups is kind of a losing game. Alright. It'd be nice if that bullet shot them, huh? Shit! Alright. I remember there is one of those guys coming up who's just, like, off to... He's just kind of, like, in the middle here. And he seems, like, impossible to pass. I've definitely played this level before. Freaking Hammer Brothers, man. Oh, no. Oh, no. That was tragic. And I know there's... Oh, shit. No! I know there's gotta be a mushroom in there somewhere. You know what I mean? I've yet to locate. Maybe I should spend a little time just, going through this and doing some jumping around. Because maybe there's a mushroom somewhere, right? There's gotta be some mushroom somewhere in one of these levels. I just feel that that's gotta be true. Like, one of these coins or something. There's gotta be... I don't know why, I just feel that there must be. It would be cruel to not have anything. Like maybe there's one under there. Oh wait, what if... Damn it. What if I can jump on top of that trap brick? And that's how you get it. That seems possible. I checked this already. It just seems, like a mushroom would be not a huge help, but a help. Uh-oh. Hey, this is what I was thinking when I was thinking there was a level that was really long that you couldn't make it through if you didn't hustle. 'Cause I'm not hustling right now and, in danger of not making it. Alright, well, shoot. 8-1 has gotten a little easier, I will say. Oh god. I think to call 8-2 easy at this point would be a stretch. But the first 10th of 8-2 isn't as bad as it was. Damn it. Spoke too soon. Spoke 3 soon, maybe. What a jam. Who did that? Koji Kondo? Probably. What a guy. I mean, at this point, is there any Bach or Beethoven that would, that's as popular as tun 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 tun. I can't remember what it was, but there was some movie or show or something where there was like an apocalyptic situation, right? And, they were all sort of sitting around a campfire telling stories. And someone was telling a story that I think was Star Wars. And I was like, if that happened, like an apocalyptic thing, this would definitely be a song that people would be like whistling and humming and stuff, right? And they'd be like, what's that cheerful? Oh, shit. I meant to... Ooh, whoa! Damn it. Not what I was hoping for. This would be the song they were humming, though, right? It's just funny because these levels don't look that bad. You know what I mean? Maybe because there's like a cheerful couple clouds in the sky, cheerful tune, everything's coming up Millhouse. And it like lulls you into a sense of like everything is fine. Death is not around every corner. Death is not stalking you at every moment. The time of your life is not just ticking down. All right. Fair enough. You also get these situations where I'm like, there could be a mushroom in like one of these bricks, right? But there's a risk-reward ratio to be considered there that I don't know if it comes out in my favor. Okay, here we go. That jump is just never going to be like smooth for me. It's always going to be a problem. I wonder how these guns work, like game programming wise. Because they go off sometimes, but not always. All right, look at that. Hammer Brother Hell. I made it to Hammer Brother Hell. This is kind of fun how there's like this castle here. You know, it's like, here it comes. I know there's a mushroom in one of these. There cannot be that many bricks without a single mushroom, can there? Okay. Okay. Let's see, maybe... Oh, that got worse. Oh, shit. Shitty shit. Kind of want him to go up. Maybe I should have been jumping or something to... Whoa! To encourage them to go up. Maybe that would have worked. I don't know. Don't know how these games operate exactly. All right. One down. Yes. Okay, this is where I have a problem. Maybe I should have been like sprinting my ass off. Seems like there's a gap in there, but... Maybe I'm just gonna run and see if that works. I know you had a second bullet in there. Whoa. Blah, blah, blah. Shit. Come on. That's the stuff. That is the stuff. Because I wonder if I run my ass off. It seems like they pop up like when you first see them. Yes! No! My brilliant plan worked once. Worked perfectly. But not the second time. Well, that was mild progress. If that works, maybe if I can like run at him, get past the first one, then like run, stop, run or something, and get past the second one, this might be doable. This might be a possible thing for Pete to do. I mean, 40 minutes ago, this was pretty difficult and now seems to be going well. So I guess anything is possible when you put your mind to it. Except like, things that you're just really bad at. Pete winning XCOM Enemy Unknown is not possible, even if he puts his mind to it. We just have to assume that to be true. Oh, shit. Shitty shit. What's funny about these Nintendo games, too, is you, go through these phases. You're first playing and you're just kind of screwing around. Then you get a little more serious. Then you get, really bad. It's a little like bowling, where it seems like everybody is maybe second, maybe third frame or third game of bowling is their best. Or a couple frames in between second and third is where you're gonna really shine. And then everything just goes to shit at some point. And you're just this is This cannot be the same game I've been playing this whole time, because how did I get so bad at it? I'm going to start calling that obstacle the pretend ending, aka the pretending. P-R-E-T capital E-N-D-I-N-G. Woo! I mean, things on 8-1 have gotten pretty solid. I think I've had a decent go there. Good learning curve. Did not expect that. Did not expect that turnaround. Bright Eyes. Do you think that's why Bright Eyes is named Bright Eyes, that band? Because they were like, turn around, Bright Eyes. And they're like, okay. Sometimes I have this feeling that, like, if I keep a bullet on the screen, it prevents others from coming out. And that's probably not true. But, you know, hope dies last. That was nice of those fellas to just go right down that hole. Whew. Okay. It's 2. Still haven't even gotten to 4 yet. You know? Like, it's like I can consistently get to 2. And I've gotten to 3 a few times. But 4, which promises to be the most difficult level of the game, is still kind of an unknown. I had a friend whose brother was extremely good at video games when we were kids. And there was this like rumor going around that with this game in particular, if you beat it 10 times in a row, it like something special happened. And so he did that. And, you know, of course it's sort of weird because this is all alleged, right? But I don't want to be that guy. It's like possible. You know, if you're a kid and you've got this game and you're able to beat it, I think if you're able to beat this game 3 times in a row, if you're able to beat it twice in a row, you can probably beat it 10 times in a row. You know what I mean? But I'm just skeptical that anything happens after 10 times in a row, because I'm like, what kind of sadist would build that into a game like this? You know what I mean? Would be like, yeah, let's just make it so you have to beat it 10 times in a row. I'm kind of like, really? And how would you even figure that out? Like, who's just like, I'm just going to beat this as many times in a row as I can? There's got to be a record for that too, right? How many times in a row has someone beat Mario? It's got to be a lot. But I would be curious to find out if that rumor was true. Blanc? I feel like I just got, like, entranced. Part of me wonders if I'd be better at playing if I wasn't talking. But if that were true, I mean, everything in my life I have performed worse at than is necessary because I don't really shut up that often. I would not be a good, like, stoic man of few words. Although, if you're casting a movie for that, I think I'd be great. Because you know how they say that, like, really nice guys make the best villains in movies? By that principle, I would make a great, like, Anton Chigurh, where it's like, man of few words, who's intimidating. That's pretty much my opposite. So if it's true that opposites attract in terms of roles in movies, boy, have you got a charismatic, loner, quiet guy, damn it, on your hands with me. It's funny because you kind of want to end on a good one, but then when you get a good one, you don't want to stop because you're like, let's keep this momentum going. Woo! Oh, shit. All right. Well, I think we did it for today. I think that was a more than reasonable attempt at Mario 1. Hopefully we'll be able to beat it by the end of the year. Okay, 1985. So hopefully we'll be able to beat it by the end of the year. Because, you know, there are other games I'd like to get to as well. But we'll see.